I never imagined that an ordinary day at university would completely change my life. I was just a final year student, trying to quietly finish my last project, far away from problems and complicated relationships. All I cared about was graduating, then finding a respectable job to begin my new life. But there was one problem: my professor, Dr. Adam. He was the youngest professor at the university, the calmest and the most mysterious as well. He wasn't like the arrogant professors everyone disliked. He was respectful, intelligent, and cold in a way that made everyone admire him, and perhaps fear him a little. As for me, I always tried to avoid him, not because I hated him, but because my heart betrayed me every time he came near. At first, I thought it was just a passing crush, but as the days went by, I began to feel something deeper, something that should never happen between a student and her professor. And in just one night, everything changed. The university was hosting a formal celebration for outstanding students, and I was one of the invited guests. I didn't even want to attend, but my friend forced me to go. There, between the music and laughter, I suddenly felt suffocated, so I stepped outside into the hotel's back garden to catch my breath. And he was there, standing alone beneath the dim lights. He looked at me and said, calmly, "Are you escaping the noise too?" I smiled shyly and replied, "It seems I'm not the only one." For the first time, we talked outside the university walls, not as professor and student, but simply as two people. And for the first time, I saw the real side of him. He wasn't as cold as he seemed. He was lonely, and when he looked at me that night, I felt that something dangerous had begun between us. The next morning, I woke up to loud knocking on my hotel room door. Still half asleep, I opened it to find a strange man asking, "Are you Mrs. Adam?" I stared at him in shock. "What?" He handed me an official paper and said, "Your marriage was legally registered last night." My entire world stopped. Marriage? When? How? Why? And only minutes later, Adam appeared at my door wearing the same shocked expression I had. He looked at me for a long moment, then said quietly, "It seems we made a very big mistake." It turned out the hotel had been hosting a symbolic mass wedding event for several couples, and because of a mix-up in paperwork, similar names, and a chain of understandings, we had been officially registered as husband and wife. We tried to cancel it immediately, but the bigger shock was that the legal process would take several weeks to reverse. And because the university had limited accommodation for participants in the academic conference, we were assigned to the same room temporarily. One room. Me and my professor. From that night on, my life became impossible. Every morning I woke up and saw him there. I heard him moving around. I felt his presence. And he tried to remain calm, professional, as if nothing had happened. But I noticed the little things. He left coffee for me on the table without asking. He closed the window when I felt cold. And sometimes he looked at me in a way that made my heart forget how to beat. Every day, the distance between us became more dangerous. Then one night, the electricity in the residence suddenly went out. I had been afraid of the dark since childhood. Suddenly, I felt his hand gently holding mine. And in a low voice, he said, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." I froze in place. The problem wasn't that I was afraid of the dark. The problem was that the only thing I feared anymore was myself when I was with him. I slowly looked up at him. He was so close. Close enough that I could feel his breath. Then he whispered, "This mistake doesn't feel like a mistake anymore." My breathing stopped, because I had been waiting to hear those words for months and fearing them at the same time. I whispered back, "You're my professor." He smiled sadly and said, "And you are the only thing I haven't been able to stop thinking about." And in that moment, I knew this was no longer just an accidental marriage. It was the beginning of a story neither of us was ready for. And from that day on, we were no longer just professor and student. We were no longer simply a couple by accident. We became two people brought together by chance, and perhaps by love too.